Hello and welcome. I'm Daniel Barnes, Product Marketing Lead here at Gatekeeper. Thank you for joining us for the launch of LuminIQ, our new digital workforce built for the office of the CFO that helps you improve business profitability. LuminIQ is all about business outcomes for legal, procurement, and finance teams. Let's be honest, best-in-class contract and third-party management has always been buried under mountains of repetitive admin, from onboarding vendors to reviewing contracts to maintaining ongoing compliance. This work is vital, but tedious. And the truth is, no organization has enough people, time, or tolerance for errors to keep up. That's why hidden risks pile up. Valuable insights go untouched, and your team ends up stuck doing work that's important but not strategic. Manual contract and third-party work creates three significant challenges. Not enough resources to keep up with the volume, inconsistent accuracy, because the work is just so tedious and there's so much of it to do, and weak follow-through on diligence because it's hard to sustain all of this. And that leads to three serious consequences. There are missed opportunities to reduce costs. There are unknown risks hiding in your contracts and vendor records. And teams get stuck in admin, not driving strategy. We built LuminIQ to fix exactly that. LuminIQ lives inside of your Gatekeeper platform and helps you reduce costs by automating routine yet vital tasks with best-in-class audit trails. It reduces risks by catching errors early and helping you eliminate these risks. And then it frees up time for your people, your teams, and you, more importantly, to focus on strategy instead of busy work. The great news is that everything we discussed today is just the start. Right now, we're working hard to radically improve the Gatekeeper platform, to bring you an entirely new and easier way to use Gatekeeper to manage all of your contracts and third parties. We'll be with you every step of the way to ensure that you can fully take advantage of generative AI, deploy it, and then more importantly, reap the benefits of it. Before we dive in, LuminIQ is powered by advanced, secure agentic AI under the hood. But from here on, we're focused squarely on the outcomes it delivers for you. I'll also deep dive into the security aspects later in this session. We have our team in the chat throughout this session, so feel free to drop your questions below via Q&A, via chat at any time. I'll answer them as we go, or one of the team will. Let me know right now what your biggest headache is when it comes to reviewing and improving your contracts, vendors, and your third parties. See, across finance, legal, and procurement, the operational burden of manual processes is staggering. In procurement, onboarding just 100 vendors a year can consume the equivalent of a full-time team. Legal teams spend an average of 4 to 5 weeks reviewing even low-complexity contracts, with internal costs reaching just shy of $7,000 per agreement. Meanwhile, finance teams lose weeks to tax form collection, TIN validation, and securing regulatory documentation. Tasks that could be streamlined or even eliminated with the right platform in place. Collectively, this busy work eats up capacity that should be spent driving strategic outcomes. Now, throughout this event, you'll discover how LuminIQ, our digital workforce, eliminates challenges like this securely via digital workers that we call Lumin agents. We'll also give you a demonstration of LuminIQ in action, from automated vendor approvals to instant contract reviews and analytics. Then we'll cover how you can get started with LuminIQ via our waitlist process and how we'll do all the work to deploy LuminIQ for you.
LuminIQ by Gatekeeper. LuminIQ transforms contract and third-party management. Your legal and procurement teams are overwhelmed. Contracts piling up, risks unnoticed, inbox exploding with urgent requests. How do you move fast and stay compliant? Imagine a virtual team working 24/7, handling all of your admin work seamlessly. That's LuminIQ. Reduce cost, eliminate risk, win back time. LuminIQ is your always-on digital workforce, surfacing insights, automating decisions, and protecting your business. Instruct Gatekeeper with your contract and third-party playbooks and policies. And let Lumin agents automate your workflows to keep you compliant and audit-ready. It's not just software. It's the future of contract and third-party management, delivered today. LuminIQ by Gatekeeper, your digital workforce today.
I want to talk about something that really matters when you are bringing AI into your business. It's not just about the technology. It's about the people, the processes, and the platforms working together to deliver actual outcomes. So let's start with people here. These are your key users, colleagues, stakeholders, the people in your legal, procurement, or finance teams who manage vendors, contracts, and third parties every single day. They are not just system users. They are the ones who will scale the impact if you give them the right tools and support, and they will unlock all sorts of value here. Next, we have process. You cannot automate chaos. So we work with you to simplify and standardize your workflows. That means fewer exceptions, faster handoffs, and less friction when moving through approvals or, more importantly, the reviews. Whether onboarding a vendor or managing third-party risk, clean processes absolutely make all the difference here. And then comes technology. This is where LuminIQ fits in. It brings automation and AI directly into Gatekeeper, so you do not need to add more platforms or switch between tools. The intelligence shows up right where your teams are already working. When you align people, processes, and technology like this, transformation occurs. Teams move faster, compliance improves, and value starts compounding. We'll help you every step of the way to deliver LuminIQ and maximize the Gatekeeper platform. If you're ready, let's begin with a quick story, one I'm familiar with from my procurement and legal practitioner days. What if your team could start the day knowing the most challenging tasks were already handled? Let's explore the morning of 4 key roles in the office of the CFO, each focused on their critical job to protect and enhance the bottom line. For the CFO, waking early to review dashboards and data, they're constantly assessing how well the organization's controls protect against risk and safeguard profitability. Then we have your legal counsel. They're diving into contracts, swiftly identifying clauses and risks that could harm the business, while trying to ensure that contracts deliver maximum value without delays. Next, we have the procurement manager. They're focused on rapidly onboarding vendors to accelerate time to value, yet mindful of the rigorous checks and due diligence required to avoid risks and ensure compliance. Last, let's take a look at someone from finance, maybe a finance analyst. This person meticulously reconciles spend data and ensures accuracy, working quickly so strategic insights can be delivered in time to support better financial decisions, all while ensuring vendors are paid on time. Though each role is distinct here, they share a common goal: protecting profitability, preventing risk, and accelerating value creation. Imagine empowering each of these roles with a digital workforce that automates critical tasks, freeing them to focus on strategy and high-value decisions. That is precisely what LuminIQ delivers. So what are the capabilities of LuminIQ? Firstly, it's the intelligence layer inside Gatekeeper that delivers specialized digital workers that we call Lumin agents, which are pre-trained on best practice workflows and knowledge for finance, legal, and procurement teams. And this is how they work. To start with, They read, reason, and act on your data while keeping everything inside your security boundary within the Gatekeeper platform. They explain every decision they make for audit readiness and, more importantly, to assure you that they've actually carried out the task as required in the correct way and have pulled out the right information to make a decision. And the great thing is, they go live in hours, not weeks, meaning you can reap the value from them faster than ever. We see 3 incredible outcomes for each of you that start to use LuminIQ. Firstly, we have the reduced operating costs that come with it. Then we have the elimination of compliance risks. And last of all, we have the ability to accelerate strategic insights as we move from busy work to the bigger challenges. Imagine onboarding a new vendor without chasing 8 separate approvals or reviewing lengthy contracts for financial exposure, all while you can actually spend time building relationships with your third party or consolidating spend in a specific category instead of all the busy work. And now, let's jump into it. Let's actually go and see these Lumin agents in action. So let's start with the classic challenge in procurement and finance, vendor onboarding, and the need to review vast amounts of data to understand the risks associated with your vendor and whether or not you can actually work with them. We then have that final step for each of these, which is a very detailed review followed by a range of different approvals. Now, when we think about vendor onboarding, regardless of how light touch or in-depth your vendor onboarding process is, it's notoriously slow and effort intensive. On average, it takes around 90 days to onboard a new vendor from initial application through to the approved status. In 40% of companies, onboarding is delayed by over 2 weeks due solely to sluggish approval cycles between departments. I've experienced this when I used to work in procurement, legal. I know all of you have as well. And we can put an end to this with LuminIQ. Enter the vendor onboarding Lumin agent. It automates your internal due diligence workflow by following pre-agreed approval, rejection, and escalation criteria. To add to this, it also uses your specific criteria, such as your vendor onboarding policies, your SOPs, your processes, or risk committee requirements. Pretty much anything that you require can be used with this Lumin agent. So let's get started with this. In this scenario, your vendor needs to complete an AI due diligence questionnaire. We're going to use Rhino Inc. over here. They've completed the vendor questionnaire over in the vendor portal. They just haven't submitted it yet. They've also uploaded their AI policy, their AI risk assessment to provide additional evidence for you. Now, once this form is submitted, it will land on your Lumin agent review phase, which you can see just here. And this workflow is quite a nice, simple one. This will work regardless of how long or wide on screen your workflows are. But I've got the vendor questionnaire linked to the vendor portal. We have a Lumin agent review, which is when my Lumin agent is going to come in, review all of Rhino Inc.'s response, any files attached to that response, and then it's going to actually say whether or not it approves or rejects that vendor. Now, more importantly here, we have a procurement review phase, and this is our human in the loop phase. This is where I, as the human, I, as the one whose job it is to make sure we make very good decisions about our vendor, will make that final call, regardless of what the Lumin agent says. If I don't agree with its decision, I can override that. So we always have the human in the loop. The hope is that the Lumin agent here will review Rhino Inc.'s response super fast and give me some really cool insights. So Rhino Inc. has submitted their vendor due diligence for AI. And now we're kind of at a waiting game, right? I'm waiting for my Lumin agent to hopefully very quickly review this card. It's all of its details and the attached file. And what we'll be able to do in just a moment is when I open the card or when I refresh the page and it moves over to the procurement review phase, we'll see all of the reasons that my Lumin agent has given with regards to its approve or reject decision. So I'm going to hit refresh here, And as you can see, it's literally just dropped into the procurement review phase. And there you go, straight at the top of the card, you can see that the Lumin agent has actually approved that this vendor be onboarded. And it gives a range of different answers as to why it should be. You can even see here, and this is kind of where my eye went straight away, there's the key factors for approval, a bulleted list, 5 top reasons. We can see here a strong adherence to industry best practices and internal policies. And yeah, this just blows my mind. And I've been playing around with this a lot internally. I used to have to spend pretty much most of my day doing work like this, which was reviewing a bunch of different vendor due diligence forms. Sometimes there are 100 questions long, sometimes 200, sometimes more. And it's exhausting. You get to the point where you're just seeing the same words in different ways coming up time and time again. And you start to think like, oh, I've got so much other cool work I could be doing. We know we've got underperforming vendors and we can't quite get to those because we're constantly in the cycle of just onboarding new vendors, which ultimately will probably start underperforming as the contract goes on. But this is absolutely incredible. And just imagine if this process was rolled out in every single one of your organizations. I've shown you quite a simple approval process that has me as the human in the loop here. I'm just going to write, I'm happy with this, typo included. And now we've moved it over to be fully onboarded. What took 90 days on average took, let's call it 13 minutes. And that 13 minutes there is mainly because I left it sitting in this area for the demo purposes, right? But that took a matter of minutes. And it really doesn't matter how many you have. This is completely scalable. If you've got 10 coming in at a time, if you've got 20 coming in at a time, the Lumin agent is going to get to these instantly, which unlike me, I'm never going to get to these instantly, sadly, because I've got so many other hats I'm wearing. I'm juggling so much other work. It's ultimately incredible. But what we're going to go do now is I want to show you a contract use case that gets me just as excited as this one. Right, next up, let's tackle the legal team's workflow, which ultimately comes down to reviewing a ton of contracts. This was my previous role before I joined Gatekeeper, and this was my number one task every single day, reviewing, negotiating vast amounts, what felt like at times low value, low risk contracts, but they just had to have a extensive review done to make sure we're ticking those boxes every single time. Most organizations still struggle with the basics of contract visibility and velocity. Contract data is typically scattered across 24 different internal systems, and fewer than 15% of businesses have a reliable central repository. Hopefully you on the call here have got everything locked down in Gatekeeper. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to add a contract to Gatekeeper through the employee portal. And what will happen is Lumin Intake will take over, and it will extract all of the critical metadata using our technology behind Lumin Extract, which used to be called AI Extract, and I'm going to give you a demo of both of those later on. Now, all of the standard fields will be instantly populated, and any custom data fields you have will also show up automatically. I've now opened the card that's landed in my contract review workflow, ready for me to take a quick look at it. What I'm going to do is review the Lumin Intake, and what I can see here is all of the wonderful pre-filled sparkles to show that there are various data points being extracted from the contract. These all look good, and I can have a quick review of the contract on the right hand side. And just for the demo purposes, I've made this a very simple one-pager for time, because I don't think anyone wants to watch me actually review a 20-page document, although that may be good fun. So I'm going to hit submit, and what this is going to do now is move over to our Lumin agent to review the contract. The contract review Lumin agent examines each word of the contract against your contract playbook. Agreements that match your standards are automatically approved and sent to the standard contract phase for a quick human check, and then we can move it on, hopefully, to contract signature within Gatekeeper using eSign. More importantly, does this work in seconds? Accuracy is incredibly high, and for contracts that do not meet your criteria, they move to the non-standard review phase. The agent marks each unusual clause in the card history tab with clear, plain English notes explaining why it is not standard. You can then redline those clauses confidently. And I would always suggest here, that's when we can bring in our partnership with Legal On to review contracts and speed up that redlining process by up to 85%. So I'm just going to hit refresh over here, and we can see here that the card has moved out of this LuminIQ agent review phase and has come straight over to the standard contract review phase. Now I'm going to click onto the card, and I can see here instantly that my Lumin agent that I've named Standard Contract Reviewer has done a fairly good deep dive here in terms of the contract. We can see that it thoroughly aligns with established organizational standards and expectations. Each critical element has been met. The proposed terms are fair, balanced, which is incredible to see that kind of language coming through. And of course, you might be thinking, like, we still want to make sure that the human is always reviewing that. I would have already done that like I showed in the earlier step. But if I need to carry out a further review, I can click down here and review the contract. I can download it, open it in Microsoft Word, Google Docs, wherever I want to go and edit that contract, or even open it in Office for the web if need be. But something else you may be noticing down here is Lumin Insights. And this used to be our contract summaries feature. Effectively, that's what it was called. We've updated the language because we've made some changes to this, which I'm going to go over shortly as well for you. But what I can also see is an incredible summary of the entire contract here. All of the key clauses, all of the key terms. It's incredibly exciting to see this. And I just want to frame this, that I used to carry out a number of consultancy roles, many for government, but also for private sector defense companies, which was to review contracts, effectively do a human review and a statement like this, and then for all of our signed contracts, carry out a contract summary review and pull something together like this on a one-pager that could be circulated across the org. It used to take me days to do some of that work. This took seconds. It is truly, truly incredible. So reviews that once took weeks now take minutes. Your legal team can concentrate on higher value contracts, higher value negotiations, rather than the manual reviews of high volume contracts such as NDAs and MSAs with vendors. Really, whatever your risk appetite is and how comfortable you are to use this is really going to guide you. But I would absolutely encourage you to get using this. I simply need to publish the contract now, and I can kick off the e-sign process over here to start the contract getting signed. It is truly, truly incredible. But you don't need to see me add signatures to a contract document. You all know how to do that. I want to show you a finance use case here, because the great thing about Gatekeeper, it really brings together all of these teams that kind of work in and around the office of the CFO, whether or not they actually directly report into that CFO. There's that group of teams, ops, finance, legal, procurement, maybe wider supply chain teams. It really depends on your setup. And they all work very closely together. We can also help your finance colleagues out significantly. So I'm going to show you the very last demo of our Lumin agents working on workflows like this. And I want to finish off with our finance colleagues. We have an incredible community of finance customers, especially with our NetSuite partnership. And I know time and time again, having been in the US, having spoken to a number of you, and we hear this all the time, the W8 forms can be an absolute nightmare, trying to get these from vendors, trying to get the right people to review them to make sure that they contain the right information time and time again. But what we're going to do here is remove weeks of back and forth on tax forms in one step. And I feel like I've only shown you cards that have been approved. I'm going to come back to Rabbit LLC in just a moment for you. But what the Lumin agent that is solely dedicated to W8 form reviews does It scans and flags any missing fields or discrepancies between the data that's in the W8 form and the data that we hold that's already been vetted and gone through an onboarding process in Gatekeeper. So for this one, we're just going to add a new card here, and I'm going to add it for Acme Inc., just to keep it nice and simple. I've uploaded the W8 form here, and of course you could have this set up in the employee portal or any other way so people across the business can raise these requests themselves. And just to quickly talk about the structure of this workflow, we have the W8 form submission, we have a Lumin agent review, so that's ongoing right now. And something that you'll notice here is actually we have two reviewers on this phase. We have both the Lumin agent for W8 form reviews, and we also have a human review. So this is our parallel approvals. It's an incredible feature, which means you don't have to have loads of sequential approvals. So if you're currently running sequential approvals and there's like 8 of you trying to review a single doc, just chuck them into a parallel approvals phase. It's so much easier to manage. And we're just going to let this agent cook. And what you can see there already, and I've done this all in real time here, is that agent has reviewed this document, this response from Acme Inc., and has made a decision. So let's log in and see what's going on here. So we can see here straight away that it's approved that decision. And we can see here as well that we're awaiting approval from Paul Bullock. He's the dedicated phase owner alongside our W8 validator, which is this Lumin agent. And we see here there's an exact match of the vendor name, consistently with the documentation, and verification has been completed. This is incredible. I'm just going to give a nice little cheeky thumbs up to rate that response. And because I'm more than happy just having a look there that this is all good, I can have a quick look at the W8 form, which for demo purposes is a non-official W8 form because I didn't want to add any IRS documentation into this. I'm just going to click approve. I'm not going to add a comment on this one, and we're all good. Acme Inc. has had a W8 form review that's taken less than 1 minute. And really, the only contingency on this one was that I needed to add my approval in this phase alongside my Lumin agent. Now, before we move off the W8 form workflow, I actually just want to call out this one here, Rabbit LLC. Now, I intentionally spelled this vendor with just one B, I promise, but I happened to make a W8 form that had it with 2 Bs just to see what would happen. And you can see here straight away that the correct company name, the correct entity name is actually with 2 Bs. So it looks like we've made the mistake internally here with the naming of the vendor. Perhaps it was within the initial request or something, but either way, we've got a discrepancy and this needs to be figured out, because until this is figured out, we absolutely cannot proceed with the vendor. We cannot get this W8 form signed off. And this is just a really great example of these small little typical human mistakes that are made, and these are made often, and it's just the nature of the work, right? This work isn't necessarily the most fun work to be constantly doing. Little typos like this are so easy to make, but it has rejected it. It's called attention to it, and this is pretty easy to solve, right? We can just go make an update in the vendor record. That will all be documented in Gatekeeper. There'll be an audit trail of that, and we can kick off and start this process again. So I just wanted to show you an example of when a Lumin agent actually rejects a card and the information it gives you, right? The fact that I have recommended steps to go and verify the information, check my typing pretty much to make sure I've not put the wrong name in, and then just to update and resubmit. This is incredible guidance. Sometimes you can feel a bit lost when something isn't quite going right, and knowing that you could have a Lumin agent working for you, working beside you, helping you along the way is just utterly phenomenal. I absolutely love this. Thumbs up once again from me. So what used to take hours now happens almost instantly. So your vendors and partners never have to wait on paperwork to actually get started with their work, the absolute vital work they need to be doing with you. This, I can't tell you how much this blows my mind, having had to do all of these types of tasks day in, day out for a number of years before I joined Gatekeeper, seeing them happen so fast to a degree that even the very best procurement professionals don't normally exercise. Like, it's very unlikely that most of us have the time to document with such rigor the reasons for an approval or a rejection. The amount of good data that you are getting here is incredible. And I just want to call out this nice little touch here that I've approved it on behalf of Paul for that audit trail. Just one last thing to call out with all of this is just over here on history, you can see all of the decision making that's happened. All of the Lumin agent decisions will be included in history all the time, but I really just like having this drop down, this area here for latest approval activity. It's just really, really handy. What we're going to go and do now is look at some of our other LuminIQ capabilities. We're going to go and look at Lumin Insights. Imagine handing over any contract document and in seconds getting back exactly what you need. A summary of every key part of that contract, whether it's dates, financial values, whatever it is you need. And more importantly, is in plain language so that you can understand it. This is what we get when we use Lumin Insights. And all you have to do is turn this on once and it just works constantly in the background for you. But we've made a few changes. Most of you who have previously turned on what was contract summaries will already be used to seeing some text here, which gives you an overview of the contract. As you can see here, we see order key point. All of this data is also used anytime a contract is in one of your workflows. So whether it's a new contract, a contract that's being amended, or even terminated and reviewed, you can see all of this information. It is incredible to see this. Anyone who is a non-legal professional who needs to understand the contract quickly can just jump into Gatekeeper, see this in seconds. You can send this over to someone. It's phenomenal. The change we've made is another great change. And this is really just the beginning of what we have planned here. We have obligations noted. We have obligations for both ourselves, the internal obligations we have to our vendor, but also the external obligations, the things that our vendor or third party must do to support us. And just seeing here the key obligations and just having that as a snapshot, we can turn these into events ourselves, and perhaps very soon we'll have a Lumin agent that can help us with all of this kind of stuff. Is a phenomenal game changer for us. Lumin Summary Insights transforms every agreement into a clear, whether it's a 2-paragraph snapshot, a bulleted snapshot highlighting all of these core obligations, deadlines. I love it. You go straight to the facts in moments rather than hours. Your teams can push agreements forward with confidence, accelerate the negotiations because you can just see all of this cool information on the workflows as well. And you can catch hidden risks or missed obligations before they become a big problem. So please make sure you're using Lumin Insights. All you have to do is go over to settings, configuration, go over to LuminIQ, and just make sure that summary obligations are enabled. You can choose which ones you want, but I absolutely recommend that if you're going to make full use of LuminIQ, that you turn all 3 of these on. Imagine any team member who needs a new agreement, who can simply upload their contract with their request. This is what Lumin Intake does. It reads the file immediately, pulls out all the core information you need from the contract, custom data included, including the contract name, the third party name, dates, values, all of it. And then it delivers it to the contract reviewer. From there, you can hand it off for a quick review with your Lumin agent, all without extra data entry. All you have to do is access your employee portal. So I've got this within my view of Gatekeeper via submit request. Come over to here, click submit form, and I'm going to drop a contract for Camel Ink over here. I'm going to extract the files, and as you can see, I get this wonderful loading screen come up. I'm just waiting here, and this is doing all the hard work for both myself and the contract reviewer. I don't have to stay on that page. I can go off, do other things, and I'll get emailed when that has happened. If we come back over to the contract request workflow that we were on earlier, when I was showing you the Lumin agent that can review contracts, you see here that Camel Ink is over here. It's ready for me to review it. And straight away, as the contract reviewer, I've got a contract that has been uploaded by one of my colleagues that they need help with. I have all the vital data just extracted and ready to use. It is utterly incredible. And all I have to do here is click submit once I'm confident that all that data is actually correct. I've not yet making that decision whether I need to review the contract and negotiate it, because I've handed that experience off to my Lumin agent to do a lot of that work for me. I can come back then and crack on with looking at more of the standard contracts, which hopefully can all go to signature straight away. And perhaps I should tackle some of my non-standard contracts, because they're the ones that are going to need a bit more of a review, but I'll likely just get those into Legal One and start reviewing those very quickly. And the reason I love Lumin Intake is that every new request and every process agreement ends up in Gatekeeper with all the right information. No missing fields, no lost emails, no delays caused by manual handoffs. Just a seamless intake experience that gets every agreement into the right hands faster. It's just wonderful to work like this. Next up, I'm actually going to show you something that I think is pretty cool. It's a new report, and it's going to show you how much of a difference using LuminIQ is making on your lives, your colleagues' lives. It's incredible. So let's jump over to that. As part of our rollout of LuminIQ, we thought it was incredibly important that you could actually assess and review the impact that it's having on your organization. And to do this, we made a really easy to view report. So if you just go over to reports in Gatekeeper, we come over to LuminIQ ROI, and straight away you're met with this view. When we talk about return on investment, we're not just talking about numbers in a spreadsheet. We're talking about time, trust, and transformation. First, let's talk about time, because LuminIQ gives your team hours back every single week. You move faster without sacrificing quality by removing a number of repetitive tasks, speeding up reviews, and automating handoffs. And just take a look at this example here. I've effectively modeled out what looks to be maybe a couple of weeks worth of work, and I know this is going to be somewhat different for many of you on this webinar right now. For some of you, this might be way more than you actually get to. It may be way less, but I can see here that compared to the human review time needed for each one of the tasks so far, the LuminIQ time is significantly lower. That I've saved an incredible amount of time, and more importantly, that I'm accruing actual savings here. And we can deep dive into each one of these to see how much of an impact we're making. As you can see here, our AI due diligence review has done more reviews. Our standard contract review has done a bunch of reviews as well. It's really cool to see the average time per review as well, because it really gives you a sense of how fast these Lumin agents work. And having seen the outputs they give, the level of diligence they apply to every decision, I'm just genuinely still blown away. And I've been living through and breathing all of this for months here at Gatekeeper. I know this is coming. I've been getting ready for it. I've been playing around with it. But even now, as I sit here talking to all of you, it still blows my mind. And with that, let's park time to one side. Let's talk about trust. Because with consistent data, clearer processes, full auditability, your business makes decisions with confidence. I think this is so important to call out here. You know where every contract is, you know what every third party is doing, and you know where your risks live. And then thirdly, transformation. It's about shifting your team's focus from chasing admin to delivering real strategic value. I know I spoke earlier on about shifting from sort of the constant cycle of onboarding as a job to be done to maybe post-signature contract management activities or relationship building activities. Maybe you get to deploy an actual SRM process. Perhaps you get to work with clients
better and closer because the contracting element becomes so simple. This is where the compounding effect truly starts. When people stop doing busy work, they begin moving the business forward. This was something our CEO, Patrick, talked to me about at length when we started this LuminIQ endeavor at Gatekeeper. LuminIQ pays off in speed, clarity, and strategic impact. This is the kind of ROI that sticks and really pays off for you. What I'm going to run through now is our security position. And I think this is something we absolutely need to take seriously, and we treat it as probably the most serious part of all of this. So let's just do a bit of a deep dive into this. Now that you've seen LuminIQ's full capabilities, let's keep it simple on security. We understand the hesitation around AI. That's why security is an absolute non-negotiable for us. Gatekeeper is fully accredited. Your data stays encrypted and private, and nothing is ever used for training. And frankly, the bigger risk is doing this work poorly or not at all. Everything LuminIQ does is designed to keep your data secure and private. When a contract is processed, only the extracted text, not the actual file itself, is sent to OpenAI using encrypted channels. The file stays securely stored in Gatekeeper, protected by encryption, access controls, and full audit logs. Nothing is ever used to train models, and OpenAI deletes the data straight after processing. We are fully GDPR compliant and work under a data processing agreement with standard contractual clauses to ensure protection across borders. Gatekeeper is also ISO 27001 certified and SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, and you can check our real-time security posture at any time over on our Trust Center at trust.gatekeeperhq.com. That's it. Easy to understand, but rock solid. LuminIQ moves fast, stays compliant, and more importantly, protects all of your data. So, we've covered a lot today. Now let's talk about what happens next. Because we also know that most software rollouts fall flat. They become too complex, they take too long, and they're too dependent on internal resources. So we fix that with everything we're doing with LuminIQ. With our concierge program, you get people enablement built in because LuminIQ handles the heavy lifting. Best practice workflows ready to deploy, and Gatekeeper is your system of intelligence for vendors, contracts, and risks. If you'd like to be among the first to experience LuminIQ, just raise your hand in the chat, let us know in the chat, or more importantly, please just answer this poll that we are putting up on screen right now. We are analyzing, triaging, reviewing every single one of you that wants to get your hands on LuminIQ. We already have a very select few of customers going through this process now, having Lumin agents go live in their Gatekeeper platform. It's incredibly, incredibly exciting to be able to bring this to more of you from today. So please let us know. Once you've responded on this poll, what we'll then do is add you to the waitlist. You'll be sent an email to let you know that you are confirmed on this waitlist. And once you're on the list, we'll invite you to a one-to-one discovery call. That's part of our LuminIQ concierge program, where we deploy a Lumin agent for you. It's a consultative session where we learn about your workflows, your current challenges, and the outcomes you truly care about most. Then we'll identify a high impact starting point and configure your first digital worker fully deployed on your behalf, free of charge as part of the beta. You don't need to prepare anything. No heavy lifting, no risk, just a fast, focused way to prove return on investment in your environment within Gatekeeper in days, not weeks. We're excited to partner with you and help transform how your teams operate across finance, legal, and procurement. I thank you so very, very much for checking out this session today. We're now going to jump into a Q&A. So if you have any additional questions, if our team hasn't quite answered any of the questions in chat, we're now going to go and answer those live.